It is December 31st in Britain, mid-1970s. No mobile phones, no pre-packaged party trays, just a single glowing coal fire and the sharp scent of Brute 33 marking the quiet build-up to midnight. In homes with freezing bedrooms and bath water rationed by sluggish immersion heaters, families transform their only warm room into a shrine of baby cham and cheese and pineapple hedgehogs. Parents bathe early so the immersion heater can refill, and children are sent to the corner shop for crisps, peanuts, or a bottle of Tizer. A coal fire is lit in the living room, the single warm space for the evening. The hallway is icy, the windows fogged, the living room glows. Behind the rituals and the laughter lies a Britain shaped by post-war scarcity and a longing for togetherness. One night when the entire nation waits for 12 bongs in perfect sync. What made those hours feel so much more than ordinary? And how did the simplest details become the memories people can never forget? Upstairs, the cold felt alive. Bedrooms sat in silence, their windows etched with frost, every surface sharp with the chill that crept in from the street. Children hurried through the icy hallway, breath rising in little clouds, feet numb on bare floorboards. Only the living room offered relief. A single coal fire coaxed to life with yesterday's newspaper, its warmth barely reaching the corners. Families bundled in wool socks and dressing gowns, shoulders hunched, waiting for the room to heat up enough to shed an extra jumper. The immersion heater, slow and stubborn, meant baths were rationed. Parents queued for a turn, hoping for enough hot water before it ran cold. The ritual was unhurried. A quick wash, towel dry by the fire, then the careful selection of one outfit pressed days before. Scents marked the evening as much as the cold. A splash of Brute 33 or Old Spice in the hallway, the sharp tang cutting through the coal smoke. Mothers dabbed on Tweed or Charlie, their bottles kept for special nights like this. The mingling perfumes drifted from room to room, settling into curtains and coats, mixing with the faint, lingering smell of last night's cigarettes. Children were sent out, coins pressed into their palms, to fetch crisps, salted peanuts, and a bottle of baby sham for the adults. The corner shop was a world of glass jars and cardboard boxes, the shopkeeper's bell echoing in the empty street. Back home, the hall was handed over like treasure. Film for the camera was expensive, so most memories stayed unrecorded, except for a few blurry snapshots taken if someone remembered to load the Kodak. The anticipation hung heavy in the air, a quiet endurance as the afternoon faded. Everyone gravitated to the living room, drawn by the promise of warmth and the slow build of excitement. The glow from the fire-painted faces orange, windows fogged with condensation, and the outside world faded away. The hours ticked forward, the house settling into the rhythm of waiting for something extraordinary to begin. By evening, the living room had transformed. The coffee table, usually hidden beneath magazines and knitting, became the altar of the night. A crisp white cloth, ironed for the occasion, covered the surface. Plates and bowls appeared, each carrying a promise of something rare and something special. Vol au vents, golden and delicate, sat in neat rows, their flaky shells and creamy fillings feeling impossibly posh, a taste of hotel dining in a council house. Next to them, sausage rolls lined up like soldiers, their pastry blistered and warm from the oven. At the center, the showstopper was a cheese and pineapple hedgehog. A half grapefruit wrapped in foil bristled with cocktail sticks, each one skewering a cube of cheddar and a chunk of tinned pineapple. The hedgehog glistened under the lamplight, a monument to 1970s glamour. Twiglets spilled from a bowl, their Marmite tang clinging to fingers. KP salted peanuts rattled in their dish. Ready salted crisps, always the classic red packet and never cheese and onion, were piled high for grabbing hands. In the corner, a plate of pink wafer biscuits nodded to the children, who circled the table like moths. Drinks followed a strict code. For adults, there was the fizz of baby cham, poured into shallow glasses, its bubbles rising fast. The bottle, with its little deer on the label, meant celebration. Watney's Red Barrel and Double Diamond sat ready for the beer drinkers. Cans opened with a satisfying hiss. Sherry and Advocate waited for the grandmothers, poured carefully into tiny glasses. For the children, Tizer and Cherryade fizzed in tumblers, staining lips red. Sometimes, if you were lucky, a glass was topped with a splash of baby cham, watered down but thrilling all the same. By 9 o'clock, the table was set. Plates, bowls, and glasses were all within arm's reach of the fire. Everyone knew not to touch until the signal came, a nod from Mum, a pop of a cork, or the first clink of glasses. The food became the centerpiece, a reason to gather and to linger. Outside, the world was dark and cold. Inside, the coffee table feast promised warmth, abundance, and a taste of something just out of the ordinary. By 9 o'clock, the living room had become the center of the universe. The rest of the house faded away, lost to the cold and the dark. Every chair, footstool, and cushion was pressed into service. Children sprawled on the carpet, knees tucked under chins, closest to the fire. Grandparents claimed the best seats, high-backed armchairs angled for both warmth and a clear view of the television. Parents squeezed together on the sofa, knees knocking, plates balanced on laps. The coffee table, now a banquet, sat within easy reach of every hand. The television was the undisputed ruler of the night. There was only one set, and it belonged to the whole family. No one had the luxury of a second screen or the privacy of headphones. The television itself took its time to wake up, a low hum, a faint crackle, the picture slowly sharpening from a grey blur to colour if you were lucky enough to have upgraded in the last year or two. For many, the switch to colour was still new, a marvel that made the sequins on Val Dunican's jacket shimmer or turned Morecambe's tartan tie into a riot of red and green. The evening's schedule had been set weeks earlier. The Radio Times, its pages dog-eared and marked in biro, lay open on the arm of the sofa. Arguments over which channel to watch had already played out, with the BBC's voice of authority usually winning the night. Variety ruled the airwaves, the two Ronnies with their sharp sketches, Morecambe and Wise's double act, Val Dunican's gentle crooning, and, for many in Scotland, Andy Stewart's Hogmanay. These were not just shows, they were rituals. Missing a moment felt unthinkable. By 1975, over 20 million people tuned in to Morecambe and Wise's New Year's Eve special. It was a number so vast, it seemed the whole country was laughing at the same joke at the same time. The sense of occasion was enforced by scarcity. With only 2 or 3 channels, everyone watched together whether they liked the program or not. There was no pause button and no chance to catch up later. If you needed the loo, you ran during the adverts or risked missing a punchline that would be quoted for months. As the hours slipped by, the living room filled with the glow of the screen and the soft clatter of glasses and plates. The clock on the mantelpiece became more important with every minute. Children fought sleep, eyelids heavy, determined not to miss the midnight moment. Parents kept one eye on the time and the other on the fire, poking the coals to keep the warmth going. Neighbours might pop in, bringing their own plates and stories, squeezing into the edges of the room. No one left their seat for long. The world outside disappeared, and the family, in all its shapes and squabbles, settled in for the long wait, bound together by the flickering light and the promise of something unforgettable just ahead. Seconds before midnight, a hush swept across Britain. The laughter and chatter faded, glasses paused mid-air, and every eye fixed on the television. In living rooms from Aberdeen to Brighton, the clock face of Big Ben filled the screen. Its hands were poised at 12, the great bell waiting in the dark. The BBC announcer's voice, steady and clipped, counted down the final moments. Even the youngest children, fighting exhaustion, felt the weight of waiting. Time itself seemed to slow, measured by the precise pips from the atomic clock, pip, pip, pip. then silence. For one breathless moment, the only sounds were the ticking of mantelpiece clocks and the faint crackle of coal fires. No one moved. No one dared speak. It was as if the whole country held its breath, united by the same expectancy, the same hope that the coming year might be kinder. The TV flickered the image of Big Ben's tower, grainy but unmistakable. Then, at the stroke of midnight, the first great bong rang out, deep, resonant, echoing through the airwaves and into every home. With that first chime, the spell broke. Cheers erupted, arms flung around shoulders, kisses planted on cheeks, lipstick and aftershave mingling in the smoky air. Children were swept up, spun around, pressed into the crush of family. The living room became a swirl of laughter and tears, of party poppers and spilled baby sham, of voices raised in relief and celebration. Across the country, the sound of Big Ben's 12 bongs was joined by a ragged chorus of church bells, factory sirens, ship horns on the Thames, and car horns blaring in distant streets. The television, now drowned by the din, showed crowds in Trafalgar Square, hats askew, arms linked, faces flushed with cold and excitement. Back at home, families linked hands in a circle, voices rising for Auld Lang Syne. No one remembered all the words, but that hardly mattered. The melody carried everyone along, from the oldest grandparent to the sleepiest child. In that moment, the boundaries of the house seemed to dissolve. The living room stretched outwards, joining with millions of others in a single jubilant wave. Outside, the night rang with celebration. Neighbours called across fences, fireworks popped above the rooftops, and the clatter of footsteps echoed down frosty pavements. For a few minutes, the old year was gone, the new one welcomed with open arms. Inside, cheeks were damp, voices hoarse, and the coal fire burned brighter than ever. The sense of togetherness, of being part of something vast and joyful, lingered long after the last chime faded. Midnight belonged to everyone, and for that brief golden interval, the country moved as one. The front door swung open just after midnight, letting a gust of frozen air sweep through the living room and across the carpet. In some houses, a neighbour or uncle lingered on the step, a lump of coal in one hand and a bottle of whiskey in the other. The first footer was always a dark-haired man if luck could be arranged, a superstition carried from Scotland and the north but whispered everywhere. He crossed the threshold with a grin, stamping snow from his boots and handing out his offerings. Coal for warmth, bread for food, salt for flavour, and whiskey for cheer. Each item meant something, a promise of plenty for the year ahead. Children watched wide-eyed, the ceremony feeling ancient and important, even if they did not quite believe in bad luck. Once the gifts were set by the fire, the mood shifted from ritual back to revelry. Someone reached for the record player, sliding Andy Williams or Val Doonican from its sleeve as the needle crackled and found the groove. The first chords filled the room, and suddenly the carpet became a dance floor. Adults swayed with glasses in hand, partners switched with laughter, and the old armchair served as a throne for anyone too tired or tipsy to stand. The air thickened with cigarette smoke and perfume, the heat from the fire now almost stifling as bodies jostled and spun. Children, determined to outlast the grown-ups, began to fade. One by one, they curled up on coats piled high on the spare bed or nodded off in the crook of someone's arm, party hats slipping sideways. Plates of sausage rolls and leftover cheese hedgehog made another circuit of the room, the sharp edge of hunger dulled. Stories grew taller and laughter grew louder as the clock inched past 1. By 2, the music slowed and conversation softened. The first footer's coal still glowed on the hearth, a silent promise that warmth and luck would last the night. Morning arrived slowly, filtering through curtains still heavy with smoke and laughter. The living room, once so full of voices, now sat in quiet disarray. Empty glasses crowded the coffee table, Party hats slipped behind cushions, and a drift of ash marked where the fire had burned down to grey embers. There was no rush to clear away. The mess felt earned, a gentle reminder that something had happened here worth remembering. Tea and heat became the first small comforts. Cold pressed in from the hallway, but nobody seemed to mind. Parents shuffled in, hair tousled, slippers scuffing the rug. Someone filled the kettle, the click and hiss of boiling water promising relief. Tea was poured thick and strong, sugar heaped in to chase away the fuzz of last night. Toast popped up, pale and uneven, spread with margarine that never quite melted. Plates of leftovers, half a sausage roll, a wedge of cheese hedgehog, sat untouched, their glamour faded in the daylight. Children wandered in, still in party clothes, eyes sticky with sleep. They picked at the remains of crisps, found a stray balloon, or tried on a paper crown left from the night before. The room was quieter now, but not empty. Instead, there was a sense of pause, a shared silent agreement to move slowly, to let the morning unfold without hurry. Tradition called some families to different tastes. In Scottish households, a dense black bun, spiced fruitcake wrapped in pastry, was sliced and handed round, each bite dense with memory. In the north of England, steak pie bubbled in the oven, its rich aroma filling the kitchen. These were not everyday foods, but once a year promises of luck and plenty, carried forward from older times. Outside, the street was hushed. No cars, no voices, only the occasional clatter of a milk float or the distant bark of a dog. The world seemed to hold its breath. Inside, families lingered together, grateful for the warmth, the quiet, and the rare feeling that nothing else was needed. The scarcity that shaped the night, one fire, one TV, a handful of treats, now made the morning feel precious. In the stillness, memories settled, ready to last the year ahead. Today, New Year's Eve rarely brings the nation together in a single room. As constant connectivity replaces shared silences and scarcity fades, the deep communal rituals of the 1970s grow distant, yet their imprint lingers in every toast and midnight countdown. The warmth we remember was not just from the fire, but from the people beside us. In a fractured age, that remains worth holding on to. Share your memories below.